Dice are rolling, darkness falls. Inside the GM Studios halls. Tabletop games where nightmares creep. In a realm where sanity is lost and weak. Welcome to the abyss where dreams shatter. Inside the GM studio, nothing else matters. Blood and chaos, the dark arts unfold. In the realm of role-playing, where legends are told.
Hey, hello out there in Electric Internet land. We are back with another side question episode of Inside the GM Studio, where we field questions from the internet. I am your host, David.
I'm Matt.
And we're going to get right into it there with the roll of this clickety-clack million-year-old D20. Matt's going to give me a question, and we're going to fire from the hip, see what happens. I get a 10. Fucking perfectly average, bro. Just regular shit.
All right. This one comes from, what? Empire of the Grimpire on RS Game Masters with the title, Advice for a Prophecy for My Players.
Okay.
I'm a first-time GM with very minimal experience outside of being a player for games like D&D and Delta Green. I'm planning on doing a game of Monster of the Week for a small group of players and want to create a prophecy for an overarching story. I'm going for a more Percy Jackson feel to the prophecy and have the base of what I want for it. But any help making it sound more flowy and ancient would be really nice. Here's what I got so far. Under green skies comes the end of days. Heroes arise, their destinies awakened. Journey to the west, find the Resurrection King's tomb, and reach the mouth of hell. Stop the ritual, close the portal. Do not fail, heroes, or hell's maw will consume our world. Thanks in advance. Sorry for any weird formatting issues. I'm on mobile. All right, first of all, it doesn't sound like a prophecy. It sounds like instructions.
Yeah. So, yeah, firstly, it just seems it seems kind of long to be a prophecy. And prophecies are not typically instructive, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea behind them. They're deterministic. They are things that are going to happen. So they
Yeah.
are often warnings of some sort that certain things will happen, and sometimes that they are connected to other things.
Yeah, and usually if they do have something to do with a hero or a group of heroes, usually they'll be very, I don't know, well, maybe, yeah, more ambiguous, more just
Vague.
vague, very vague, yeah.
Yeah,
Interpretation is the big thing.
right. So, I guess I'll preface it by saying I don't really know what a Percy Jackson style prophecy is.
Yeah, me neither. I never saw any of the movies. I never read any of the books, so
I know people do this a lot. They embed these big kind of like pop culture things in questions they ask, and it's like, so if you're like, I kind of want it to be like this, and you're like, but I don't know what that is, so I don't know how to like give you something that's thematically texture for.
you know what? You go on, talk about prophecy a little bit more. I'll try to look up what the Percy Jackson prophecy is.
Yeah, so here's the thing is first of all, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around how you're going to do a monster of the week with a prophecy, because a prophecy is typically like a long form kind of thing and seems somewhat antithetical to the idea of a monster of the week, which would be kind of siloed off, disjointed narratives that don't have a common overarching thread, except maybe they take place in the same world, or they're whatever, but they're designed to be episodic. So it seems to probably rob a little bit of the idea of a prophecy if it's going to be finished in like one session, or even 2 or 3 sessions. The idea is that you're building towards something that is often large and catastrophic. There aren't very many prophecies about like what kind of lunch you're going to have, right? So it's like, So that's typically the way it would run, but the key to a good prophecy is to keep it vague, um, and poetic enough that there can be multiple interpretations, and that it's cryptic enough that the players might need to figure out what it means. So it's a lot like a good riddle in that way, where you have to be keen to kind of think metaphorically, to think in abstract terms, uh, or whatever. Uh, if they have access to it, typically a prophecy is just a plot device, right? It's a way to get the players involved in the narrative, and it forecasts. The interesting dynamics of having a prophecy are whether you want it to be kind of one of, let's call it three camps, but really kind of just basically two camps. If a prophecy is forecasting what will happen in a deterministic way, then that means it's inevitable. And that is much bleaker in a kind of Greek mythology kind of way. And so what's bizarre to me, and part of the reason that I was trying to call to mind anything that I knew about Percy Jackson, is that from what I understand, that is kind of based on Greek mythology, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's the son of Poseidon.
Right, but here's the thing about the Greek myths is that they're incredibly deterministic, right? They're just the characters are just wind-up toys, and the prophecies are not spelled out as well as they would be, and because of that, characters often act to counterbalance the the prophecy. And so this is what's the other camp is like, do you want it to be fatalistic? Not even deterministic, fatalistic, which is to say that all events in the cosmos are predetermined and are going to go a certain way, irrespective.
Mm.
Uh, do you want the players to be able to influence what happens? X thing is going to happen, and so players need to stop X thing because on the first blood moon of the century, uh, a monster will rise if you don't XYZ, right? Uh, the gates of hell open and spill forth, so the players need to counteract it. Um, and a subset of that would be: is there ways and are there characters in the narrative that actively are trying to make the prophecy come true? And you need to determine whether they can actually do that. It's a very important thing to establish whether it's fatalistic or whether it's not. So Greek myths are, at least all of the ones I've ever read, are incredibly fatalistic, and often what happens is some character will do something because they're aware of the prophecy. So Oedipus is a good example of this.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Oedipus Rex is like it is foretold that he will marry his mother and kill his father. And his father knows this. And so what he does is he sends him away. But because he sends him away is precisely what makes the prophecy come true. The reason he marries his mother is that he does not know that it's his mother. Kills his father because he does not know that that guy is his father. And so that's very bleak and fatalistic. And if you want that sort of tenor in your game, then yeah, go for that. Um, but you need to answer that question from the beginning. And the important thing about a prophecy that's fatalistic is that it often prescribes what will happen, not how it will happen. And so the characters in the narrative become set on their path, um, and through trying to influence, to stop or make happen a prophecy, they inevitably make sure that it doesn't happen. Um, but if you wanted it to be more heroic, um, then the players should be able to kind of influence what's going to happen. In which case, you might give some more details that are concrete or prescriptive. You need to do Y or X will happen, sort of situation. Um, I don't I don't often deal with prophecies because precisely because good ones tend to rob the players of a lot of agency. They feel railroaded because if they're fatalistic, they definitionally are incredibly railroaded. But that doesn't mean it can't be fun.
Hmm.
Um, it just depends on how heroic your game is. Like for instance, a um, a sword and sorcery game, for instance, prophecies are much more um, at place, but they're often less fatalistic, right? Like there be prophecies, but the characters can kind of like intervene and stop them from happening. And so, if there's enough ambiguity, it can be kind of like it can be intriguing for the players to figure out what elements they can influence and what elements they can't influence. Uh, and it could even be kind of like a fun twist if the like a or fun reveal that if the prophecy's vague enough, it might refer to a whole slew of things, right? This is happened around the turn of the millennium with Nostradamus's prophecies, uh, because they could be read to apply to anything that was kind of in the zeitgeist at the time. But then
Mm.
you can also just read them 50 years later and just apply them to whatever you want currently, right? Like the third coming of the Antichrist. Well, that's obviously, like, the first was Napoleon and the second was Hitler, and obviously the third is referring to Milosevic, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, Milosevic, he's the third Antichrist, and then you could just apply it to Obama for that matter, like
Yeah.
a decade later, and then now you could apply it to, I think some people applied it to Ayatollah Khomeini,
Yep.
and it's like, so it could be kind of a fun twist to have it be like the players go through the whole narrative and that they for whatever reason avert whatever disaster they think is happening and then come to find out that the prophecy is not about the thing that they're doing. That would be a fun twist. Did you look up what Percy
I
Jackson
did.
maybe more thematically?
And
We
I
can
think
give
I
it a little more.
see where the questionnaire was like
Mm,
was getting it from. This is fucked up, first of all, because it seems every character in the Percy Jackson books has a prophecy. There's already 8 prophecies for characters, and then there's like
Jesus.
3 more because there's the dark prophecy, there's this other one, and there's this other one. But this is just this is the one for Percy Jackson. I'm
Okay.
not even going to look at the other ones. From the Lightning Thief, which I guess is the first book, in book 1 of the
Yeah.
in book 1 of the series. All right, they're numbered, but I don't know if they're numbered in the book, so it's just going to go like this. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end.
Yeah, so it is more prescriptive, but
Hmm.
it is kind of telling someone what they will do. Um, so I get where his actually his the one that he proffered is pretty much in the line with that. It seems
Yeah, it
pretty
is.
appropriate.
Like at the beginning, very much so. The under green skies comes the end of days, heroes arise, their destinies awakened, journey to the west, find the resurrection king's tomb, and then right there, I think is where he starts kind of getting into it because then it's just all run on journey to the west, find the resurrection king's tomb and reach the mouth of hell. Stop the ritual, close the portal. There's stop the ritual, comma, close the portal. Period. Do not fail, heroes, or hell's maw will consume our world.
Right, right. So the do not fail part seems to imply that um seems to imply that the players can in some way affect the outcome. However, I would note a key linguistic distinction,
Mm,
and it may be important. The one that you read for Percy Jackson is not telling Percy what to do.
hmm.
That gives him more agency.
Yeah.
It's telling him what he will do, what
Hmm.
will happen. And some of those things might be external things, like a friend will betray you, but some of them would involve the character, him or herself, which would be you will fail, you will marry your mother, and the key to the first category is to actually the key to both of them is probably to keep the mystery. But if you want it to go off, then try to think of clever ways that the thing as prophesized, because it's vague or terse, can maybe not seem to be what it is at first, right?
Hmm.
Like, you will betray a friend. Like, you have some wiggle room in there for, like, well, what constitutes a friend? Like, if a friend is turned enemy, are they still a friend? Is that a
Right.
betrayal to kill them? Um, so,
Or just like it says here, and I love that how you're talking about how it's a little bit more ambiguous
mhm,
because it says you shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend.
yes, that's
So it
better.
doesn't mean that they have to be a friend, but perhaps it is a rival that still calls you friend.
Right, right. And so things that are they have some wiggle room, right? So maybe the player thinks, "Oh, I'm going to betray my friend."
Mm,
Okay, like he said, one betrayed by one that calls you a friend, but that could very easily be like the betrayal once you get the entire context. It doesn't seem bad. It's not like a
mhm.
thing that you're dreading. You're dreading it through the whole time, but then when it finally comes, you go, "Oh, okay, like that's what it meant." Look, because oh yeah, that guy's like my friend, but like not he's not anymore. Like he's an asshole, so I don't like him anymore. Like, um, so when you can have reveals like that, where it, um, especially if it just simplistically seems like a good thing, um, that ends up not being a good thing, or a bad thing that ends up not being a bad thing. Uh, and if you're going to have a bunch of different lines that are prescriptive or descriptive, then try to mix it up. It would be
Mhm.
you could have some of them be exactly as stated, um, but others would be like all the good things seem like they're bad, and all the bad things seem like they were good. And if you word them in such a way, then it would allow the journey to still be fun and the reveals to subvert some expectations.
Mhm.
Um, uh, but try to frame it in terms of like what will happen, and saying something like he does at the end, like "don't fail," or this will happen. It's like, well, then, you know, is it a contingent prophecy? Is what I'm going to call it, a contingent prophecy. If you don't do X, Y will happen.
Yeah.
Or is it a fatalistic prophecy, which is like, this is the way things are going to go? And if it's this is the way things are going to go, then you can have some fun with subverting expectations. He doesn't really get into what his intent of the prophecy is, and given that it's a monster of the week and kind of a Percy Jackson, I don't really know how to make sense of that.
Yeah,
I don't.
it's weird. And if they're talking about the game system monster of the week,
Maybe yes,
um, monster of the
but
week is a PBTA game,
yes,
if
but
I
it is a
remember right.
monster of the week game. That's why it's called
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah. That's why I was thinking it's a monster of the week, which I
Yeah.
guess you could still do with a prophecy, but yeah, weird.
It just seems like such a short arc, because if a prophecy is like it's like how detailed do you want it to be? That's the
Mm,
question.
yeah,
Like just a is this a whole like series of events, right? This will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, or is it just like the final stop on the train, right? Like the the great beast will awaken when XYZ happens. Or are they kind of siloed off? It's probably important to determine how interconnected each of the portions of the prophecy are. And
hmm,
like I said, you need to determine whether each domino inevitably knocks down the next domino. You can have a lot of fun with that because it can kind of lead seemingly inevitably, um, but sometimes it's fun to give the players like the illusion that they have a choice, or the illusion that they can affect the outcome when they can't. I like that notion, but it's a lot less grit and heroism as it is going down a prescribed path. I mean, the Greek heroes are definitely very heroic, and there's some opportunity for great heroism when you know that things are fatalistic. So if you cue your players into the fact that things are fatalistic, then they have some options. It's kind of like that Blaze of Glory option at the end of I think it's Daggerheart has it. A couple other games have it, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you know you're gonna die, it opens a whole suite of things that you can do that you otherwise wouldn't do because you're concerned
You
with
got nothing to lose.
right. You got nothing to lose, and so just because the heroes of Greek mythology are mostly being toyed with by the gods, and their things are going to happen the way that they're going to happen. You could argue from a philosophical standpoint that their actions are more heroic because if they know that and they exist in the world where such prophecies are common, then they're aware of that. So how much awareness you want to give your players of what kind of world this is, how common prophecies are. Do they know? Is this like a world that just churns out prophecies about everything under the sun?
According
Is
to this wiki, it seems like it because there's 10 different fucking prophecies throughout the book series.
Right, right. But I mean, in his game world,
Yeah.
is this a thing that is commonplace? And if so, do people know how to react to them? What does it do to the collective culture, the collective mindset of everybody in this world? Do they just go like, "That's just the way it's going to happen"? You just kind of, the gods, we're just toys of the gods, and they will ordain what will happen. Or is it like, no, bro, like you can fucking change shit because you gotta do it. You gotta do it because you're just like whatever. You're usually one of the characters in a Greek myth is chosen in some way, whether it's Theseus or it's Hercules or it's Achilles. The gods have them as like pets, and they kind of favor them, and so they help them. And so it depends on how much agency you want to have um in the adventure. And to me, that's what I kind of feel weird about the whole, like, always found the Percy Jackson world kind of weird because it's like it seems antithetical to the idea of Greek mythology. It seems like the characters, like, there are prophecies, so on the surface level I was aware that there are prophecies in Percy Jackson and that they're kind of similar, like part gods or something, or like children of gods or
Yeah, the
something
children
to
of the
that.
gods.
Right, right. And so, but to me, there seems to be a very heroic and you know, sort of world where they can affect the outcomes and all this stuff. And to me, that just Jesus, people, who are you? Shut up! Stop talking to me. I don't
So
care about you.
popular.
I know I'm super popular today. Um, so yeah, I don't really know how to make sense of that, but it's an important kind of world building thing that you probably ought to do before actually writing the prophecy because it will govern how you write it, how vague it is, how prescriptive it is, whether the characters have any choice in the matter, or it's like a line of dominoes, or what. So, as for verbiage, it seems like he has kind of the cadence of the verbiage down pretty good
Hmm.
with the small adjustment of, you shall instead of like imploring them to do this. Like, well,
Yeah.
if you have an option to decide to do any link in the chain, then it's not really prophetic. It's, just imploring you. It's like asking for your help. But if it is just the last station on a train track and the train is heading toward that, then perhaps everything that leads up to it like is a cautionary, like, this is where things are going if you don't intervene, right? The
Hmm.
machines will take over if we don't save Sarah Connor or whatever, right? Like, but it's not like, a prophecy would be like, you're going to go back in time and you're going to try to save Sarah Connor, like, because the machines are going to go back in time, and they're going to try to kill Sarah Connor because they're losing the fight. They've lost the fight, and so now they're trying to like recorrect the. That's essentially what a time travel story usually is a prophecy. Like you
Hmm.
know things go a certain way, and because they go a certain way, you're trying to alter them. Um, Most time travel stories are that way, with the exception of 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is the fatalistic time
Hmm.
travel movie. It's part of the reason it's my favorite time travel movie is that it's just like no, you were always going to go back in time. Like that's what causes the big plague. Like you going back in time was already factored into the equation. But that's why you have a memory of seeing yourself because you always went back in time, and that's like kind of mind-boggling, but much cooler, I think.
I've never tried using a oh, that's not true. I did once, but I think I did the same thing that you did for like our most recent our D&D campaign right now. Is it was just like, a little blurb about the Terrask, arising again, because that's the easy one. That's the best one because everyone knows what the Terrask is. If you play D&D, you probably know what the Terrask is. So, you bring it up, the great
Most people
horned
call it the
beast,
Tarask, though, because
Torask.
that's I think that's how you actually say it. We
I don't
just have
know,
been
whatever
saying it
the
wrong our whole lives.
yeah, the French version of it.
Uh,
Um, but I also think because I always like, well, I always thought if I made a prophecy like that, I'd want to
mhm.
stick in like a little bit of a riddle of it in some sort, like how to fulfill the prophecy is in the words. But
Yeah,
when they try to find the key to solving or to finishing to making the prophecy fulfilled, is that there's an answer to a riddle that's in there,
sure.
and I just no, I'm not going to
It's
do that
yeah,
because
our
I
D
always
and D
get like Indiana
campaign.
Jones syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, it's. I mean, our D&D campaign, although we've been on hiatus for a minute now, like, it's like probably the first game that I've really been using a prophecy, but it's much different than what this questioner is asking, so I
Hmm.
don't know how informative. Not to mention, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on my strategies on that, because I'd like it to hopefully be somewhat of a surprise to you when,
Yeah.
I mean, I've alluded to it. That's the key thing is that a prophecy ought to foreshadow something, and by foreshadow, I don't mean show it in its entirety. Uh, it needs to hint at it to give the players a sense of intrigue, but how you get there and what reveals are along the way should probably be embedded in the language. And if you think hard on it, you can probably even weave an adventure that leaves the players guessing if they're at a certain leg in the prophecy at any given part of the adventure. Um, Perhaps even leaving it open ended enough for yourself that you can kind of like, you don't need to necessarily script it all out, or it can just kind of be, like maybe it's this, and maybe it's this, and maybe it's this. Um, do that too much, and I think it gets a little frustrating.
Hmm.
Players do want some idea, and the full whether you want to have a full reveal at the end as to like whether they were successful or not, or maybe leave it ambiguous, will all depend on, I guess how bleak you want your world and adventure to be. But it's to me on such a short time frame for a monster of the week, it doesn't seem like it'll just seem like the pacing would be really hurried.
Okay, I got it right here. This is the official pronunciation. Tarask.
Tarask, yeah,
Tarask. That is the
yeah.
official pronunciation.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I swear I looked it up at one time. Not, I thought it was yeah, Tarask, but it's Tarask.
Tarask. Yeah.
Tarask. Where the fuck does that word even come from anyway?
It's French. It's a French thing, I believe. Because I remember seeing when I worked at the wine store, there's an actual Tarask wine, and
Oh, there
it's
is.
from
You're right.
France. Yeah. So I think it's
Yeah.
a French. It's a like a myth from French legends or something. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think I looked it up one time, and it actually is really not a whole lot like described in D&D, but it's kind of similar in the same way that like the description of like a basilisk is all wonky from what is in the game, but
Mm,
because it's just vague, like what the monster is, like depictions of it are kind of all over the place.
yeah.
So
it's the only one, but if you play Spelljammer, then you can go to a planet that's all Tarask.
That's true. Yeah.
This is usually the point of the show that I go down to the comments and see what the commenters have to say, but they haven't really said anything. There's 1, 2, 3 commenters, and all they did is say, hey, liven it up a little bit. Like, there's one here that's literally says, where is it? Oh, fuck, no, I can't find it. But either way, I really just wanted to see what they said. It goes like, yeah, maybe make it seem more whimsical by giving it old timey words like thee and they. Like what? Oh yeah, sure. Hence and whence.
Sure. Hence.
That's all they're doing. They're just saying try saying it differently, because I think even the people down in the comments see he started strong, and then at the end of this prophecy, it just got more like you got to do this and this and this and this.
You got fuck. Yeah, it sounds like a command.
Yeah.
And so it's probably important to kind of establish a little bit about the cosmology. Like, where does this prophecy come from? Is there a pantheon of gods? I assume there is, if it's kind of Percy Jackson-y. But like, how transparent are they about like the prophecies? Like, what are they supposed to be instructive, or are they supposed to be cryptic? How involved are the gods in the day-to-day operations
Yeah.
of mortals? How is the prophecy? Is the prophecy given from the gods as some sort of warning, as some sort of like prescription? Because it seems to me that if some cataclysm is going to happen, then the gods would be in control of that cataclysm, and so why would they be instructing the players on how to stop it? In Sword and Sorcery, it's very different, because the prophecies are often like mortals' feeble attempts to understand the workings of demons and the gods and whatever. And it's less clear whether they even exist, the gods, in a lot of Sword and Sorcery stuff. So these prophecies are almost like sorcerers who have kind of like cracked the code of the universe, but they can't really glimpse it well enough to get
or
any
wizened
clarity.
oracles out in the swamps.
Right. And so it's much more occult and much more hidden, and so that's why it's much more prone to human misunderstanding. But if they come from the gods as like instructions or warnings or whatever, then the likelihood that they're going to be framed in ways that are more clear is pretty good, unless they're trying to in some way test the character's mettle. Like, we're going to give him these kind of vague instructions and kind of see what he does, and there's some sort of value in that. But if you're going to have a more Greek mythology theme, then I would posit that it needs to be a little more in that category than the really hidden category. But then it robs you of the ability to kind of be a little clever with some of it, and unless it is a testing the metal kind of thing, in which case you have some opportunities there to kind of play around with it. But I don't think it really matters how it's phrased. Maybe he's more hung up on that. A lot of stories that actually have prophecies, they don't ever tell you like the actual words in the prophecy. People just allude to it as if, as it was foretold in the scrolls of Skelos, right? Like, it's just like, oh, okay. Like, if you read that book, then you kind of like know what it is. But they don't ever say, as it says in quotes, direct quotes, this will happen, that will happen, this will happen. What's important is it's not so much what the words say, it's how the players are to interpret them. So you can have some fun by giving them the actual words and see how they interpret it. But if what you want is to kind of get them down the path, then maybe just tell them what their interpretation of the prophecy is.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
If it's going to play out the same way regardless, then it doesn't really matter what the words are.
All right. Well, I got nothing left on this as I am I'm not exactly an expert on prophecies. I've never even really tried to do one properly. Maybe I'll try one soon.
Mm, maybe.
Uh, but you got anything to end on there, David?
No, I feel like I gassed on long enough.
All right. Well, then let's just leave that with a good night.
And good luck.